Hello, my name is Ian. I'm one of the Sage 200 support team technicians. Today, I'm just going to take you through the second of three videos. We're going to be creating the Power Automate custom connector. Before we get started, we'll just run through the agenda quickly. So firstly, we're going to have a look at the prerequisites for creating the custom connector. I'm then going to demonstrate a walkthrough of creating the custom connector. So that'll cover where you get the connector, steps to create the connector for both standard align and professional variants of Sage 200, and then making sure the connector works. We'll then finally cover off the next steps. So before going through and creating the custom connector, there's a couple of things you'll need to make sure that you've done first. So you'll need to make sure that you've been in touch with ourselves to register and onboard your Office 365 subscription. If you're a Sage 200 professional customer, you'll need to have installed the Sage 200 native API tunnel. The API is enabled and that you can return sites through the online services.sage200.co.uk website. You'll then need to have created the Sage 200 as your application, which is the point we just covered in the last video. If you haven't done any of these steps or you're not sure where you're at, I'd advise you go back to the beginning of these videos just to find out where you are. And if you haven't done any of it, it's a good place to start to get started. So once you've created the Azure application that we did in the last video, you'll then need to register to the Sage 200 Unlimited API. That can be done by going to the following website: developer.columbus.sage.com. You'll need to go to the UK and then select your variant. So depending on if you're a professional customer, click on professional. If you're standard online, click on standard online. What this web page will do is this will take you to all the API endpoints and the documentation around the Sage API that's available to you. This will be covered by the guys in developer support in their videos, but it's a good place to get started with understanding the API and the endpoints available. What you need to do in the top right hand corner is there'll be an option for you to sign in. All you'll need to sign in is a Sage ID. So you can use the Sage ID that you previously used in the other video for Sage 200 professional customers, or the ID you signed in with if you're a standard online customer. When you do that, you'll be greeted with a page like so. When you're on this page, you'll need to go to APIs at the top here, and then click on UK. Now this will bring you to Sage 200C Professional Action Online or Sage 200C Standard Online. It doesn't actually matter which one you choose. Your subscription will cover both. So click on either one and click subscribe. You'll see here it contains two APIs, Standard and Professional Extra Online. So click select. And then we click continue. So make sure you tick the box to agree to the product terms of use and click confirm. And that's it. You've now successfully registered to the Sage 200 Unlimited API. From here, what you will need is you will need your subscription key, which is also known as a primary key. So to get that, all you're going to do is click on show. From here, you can just highlight the information, copy, and then just pop it in your notepad, because this is going to be another piece of information that you need. So we'll call that subscription key, and then we'll just paste the information in there. Once you've done that, you're then ready to move on to the next step. So the next step is actually downloading the flow examples and the Swagger files that you need to create the Sage 200 custom connector. They can be found in the article linked in the description. So what I'll do is I'll just go there now. So I'll just open up a new tab and go to gb-kb.sage.com. Just going to create a custom connector. And this is the article you're going to need to use. So for Sage 200 professional customers, there are different Swagger files that you need to download depending on which version you're using. For standard online customers, there's only one and it is listed here for you. I'm using Sage 200 2020 R1, so I'm going to click on this link here. Then ask us to sign in using our Sage ID, which I'll do now. What you'll see is we're brought to this page. So we'll just click on download, and this downloads a zip file. So what you're going to do is you're going to unzip this folder by right-clicking on it and click on extract all. And what you'll see in here is you'll see your custom connector. You see your purchase requisition email flow, which we'll need for the third video, as well as your supplier bank details flow. It's important to note that you don't unzip these folders in purchase requisition email flow and supplier bank email flow. Flow requires these files to be zipped up, so what it'll do is it'll unpackage them itself. Once we've got that information, all we'll do is we'll go to flow.microsoft.com and we'll sign in. Once you're signed in, you're going to go to data on the left hand side and then custom connectors. You'll see in the top right hand corner we've got the option for custom connector. Click on the drop down arrow and then import an open API file. It'll ask you to give it a name, so we'll just call it Sage 200 custom connector. And we'll just choose the import option, so we'll go to where we downloaded that information before and then click on continue. And that won't take too long to upload. So what we'll need to do now is just give the connector a name. So we'll just call it Sage 200. We'll call it Sage 200 custom connector. You leave the tick box unticked for connect via on-premise data gateway. Leave the scheme as HTTPS. The host will need changed from S200 API to just API. Your base URL will also need changed. Now, depending on your version, whether you're a standard online customer or you're a professional customer, the URL will slightly differ. I'm going to be doing this as if I'm a Sage 200 professional customer, but I will include both URLs in the description below. They're also in the article that we previously went to. You can see here, it's called out specifically for standard education, you use this URL. For professional, you use this URL. You must have the leading / in that as well, otherwise the API will not authenticate correctly. Once we're done, we click on Create Connector. I'll just take a moment or two to get created. And what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to move on to the next step, which is security. Click on the security tab. And it'll ask what authentication is implemented by the API. We click on the edit. And you're choosing OAuth 2.0. This then opens up the rest of the form. The identity provider we're going to set is Azure Active Directory. So this is where the information that we're going to require comes in handy from before. So you're going to need your client ID for the application that you created previously. You're going to need the client secret. The login URL stays as it is. The tenant ID stays as it is. The resource URL is something that we pull from the documentation. So let me just go in and grab that quickly. So you just pick up that URL, paste it into the resource URL. The scope is also left blank. When that's done, you click on Update Connector, and you see the connector has now updated itself. The last step you'll need is this redirect URL here. Click on the copy icon. And the reason I asked you to keep the Azure Active Directory page open before is because this is where we need to add it in to our application. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to authentication. We're then going to add a platform. We're going to choose web. And we're going to paste that URL. Click on configure. And that's updated the application. So that's the last time that we'll need to go into it. What we'll then need to do is we'll need to come back to the Flow web page and then click on the test tab. First thing you'll do is you'll need to select a connection. So if you click on new connection, it'll ask you to sign in your Office 365 account. You'll then have permission requested from your Sage 200 application. If you don't get this screen, it's because you haven't allowed 200C API permissions to access the 200 application that you've created in Azure Active Directory. If you haven't done that, please go back to the previous video and watch how to do that. So we're going to consent. We're going to click accept. Once the permissions have been accepted, you'll then see your Azure application populated in the connection section above. So the next step is we'll need to check to see what sites and what companies we're associated with. To do that, we'll need to scroll down to the operation sections and choose number 19, which is Get Sites. Get Sites just requires one mandatory field, which is the subscription key. This will be the primary key that you selected and highlighted when you previously signed up with the Sage 200 Unlimited API. So what we'll do is we'll copy the subscription key, just paste that in there, and we'll scroll down and we'll click on Test Operation. Now what's happening here is the API will be working away and returning all the site information and the company information that your email address is associated with. If your response has been successful, you'll get a 200, and in the body you'll see the company ID, company name, site ID and site name that you're associated with. Again, for me, I've only got the one company and the one site that I'm associated with. This is why I've only got one entry. If you've got a user who's got multiple companies selected against them, or your email address is submitted against multiple sites, you'll get all the sites and all the company information returned. What we'll need to do for the next part of the video is we'll just need to make a copy of the site ID and the company ID. So what we'll do is we'll just copy that, and then we'll just add that into our notepad like so. And that's it. So we've successfully set up the custom connector to allow us now to implement the flows that we've provided as a demonstration. The next steps will be deploying one of the demonstration Power Automate flows. We'll also have a look at amending an existing flow to start creating your own flows. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.